I believe that Disney Channel original movies are a treasure trove of great bad movie experiences. It's tough to find a more unified style of film that's perfect to get a little silly with your friends on a Friday night. Have a drink and watch some Brink. Make it to your 13th beer, and you get to watch the 13th year. But I think the one I'm going to talk about today is one of the best ones to goof on just because of how it's told. Howdy, my name is Albert, but you could just call me Butter. If you asked me to list off DCOMs after the big ones like High School Musical 2, Horse Sense.
This one's really boring.
I'd probably bring up Minutemen fairly quickly. It came out during the tail end of the golden era of the mid-2000s and featured one of the most sci-fi plots since Xenon. It starred 3 actors, each of whom turned out a little bit differently from each other. There's Jason Dolee, who's most famous for playing PJ on Good Luck Charlie, and being on Kai Cenat's stream with a bunch of his other co-stars. I definitely know who that is and didn't just see it on his Instagram. Speaking of, while making this video, I saw that he actually posted that he premiered his own short film, so good on you, man. Luke Benward is another actor who stuck with Disney for a little while, starring as the male lead in Cloud 9. He's since acted in a few smaller projects here and there, and now he actually opens card packs on Instagram. And last, but certainly not least, there's Nicholas Braun, who was recently in the SNL movie, and oh god, what else was he in? Let me think. Oh yeah, Succession?
Is that bad? Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, that could be bad. You could go to jail.
The Minutemen to Succession pipeline is crazy. The movie begins with a scene that sets up the dynamics that we'll see throughout the whole film. Virgil and his best friend Derek are enjoying their first day of high school. They're schmoozing, having a great time, but then a literal super genius kid comes barreling across the football field in a rocket-powered cart. Who gave this kid access to the materials to make a rocket of this size? Also, I feel like the school is a little liable for allowing access to that cart. Like, this is a lawsuit ready to happen. The kids on the field think that this marvel of technology is lame, and throws Charlie, the young scientist, into the jock blender. This is where Virgil sticks up for Charlie in front of all these bullies and tells them he's gonna be a great scientist one day, and that these inventions that he creates are fantastic and they're gonna change the world, and I'm just kidding, he's going into the jock blender too. And as they hang from the school's ram statue, a blossoming friendship is formed. A friendship so good that after 3 years, these guys look exactly the same. How do they do it? After some intense lip biting from Derek's girlfriend Stephanie, Virgil and Charlie come face to face with Somerton High bad boy, Zeke. Ooh, look at him scowling. Softly. In the cafeteria, when Virgil is cracking out that mid-2000s awkward boy charm, we learn that his life goal is to become a game show host. That's a new one. I like to think that in his head he's like, ah shit, who's the hottest man alive? Pat Say Jack. More like Pat Say Less. In other news, Charlie invents time travel. A formula that, if applied right, can send people up to 48 hours into the past. They really nipped the whole killing a certain world leader as a baby thing in the bud. Really dodged a bullet with that one. While they discuss the logistics of it, Jeanette is introduced as a love interest for Charlie, and she's just a little weird.
Oh, it's cool. I like shy boys.
Girl knows what she wants though, so you know, go off, queen. They get the help of Mr. Deadstare and build the time machine. Using a lot of stuff they just steal from the school, and an underground bunker that they convince the principal to let them use for $1. Side note, the principal in this movie is insane. He doesn't care about the integrity of the school or the safety of the students. He just lets kids get bullied and harassed and put into dangerous situations, all without facing a single repercussion for it. After a sick building montage, the time machine is complete, and they throw a cat in it. That's so messed up. I hate that, man. Why do people always bully cats in movies? That's so mean. But it works. Unfortunately for them, the government catches on, but don't worry, they won't actually show up for a while. They gear up and go on their first time travel mission, winning the lottery. Their plan backfires pretty quickly when they're turned down at the counter for being underage. Not the most thought out plan, but hey, at least they're quick thinkers. Instead, they ask a street performer to help them buy a ticket and pick it up the day after, but he just takes the money for himself. As they try to come up with a new use for the machine, one of the nerds at the school gets his clothes stolen and has to run naked through the entire school. This is when they get the brilliant idea to save the losers. Virgil gives them a pep talk and entitles them the Minutemen, which, if you didn't know, was actually the name of this movie. I thought that was a pretty cool detail. However, they need someone behind the chair to make sure they can make it there at the right time. So they hire Jeanette to keep things running smoothly. She helps style them with new gear, and Zeke introduces Chekhov's grappling hook. That's a surprise tool that'll help us later. And now it's time. A settlement needs your help. Here, let me mark it on your map for you. They go back and over some wacky scenes, they save these dweebs from life-altering events. I wanted to take some time to discuss this movie's rendition of time travel. It's pretty well known in pop culture that time travel in media works wildly different from each other. And this film is no exception. Although, that may be due to the fact that there are a bunch of weird rules it sets up. This entire section of this video is based on an older video from Minute Physics. I remembered this chart and my brain immediately wanted to try to insert this movie into it. I'll link that video in the description. It's a super clear and concise watch. They talk about a bunch of different media and tell you about how each time travel works and what it looks like, but I'm just gonna categorize and make it easier to talk about this film specifically. I'll also try to use different examples so I'm not like eating into that video. There's forward travel, only moving forward in time, like Interstellar or Click, I guess, kind of. Recursive travel, getting stuck in a loop like Happy Death Day. Splinter travel, a type that deals with new timelines as seen in Avengers Endgame. And fate travel, where whatever you do when you time travel has already technically happened, as shown in something like Meet the Robinsons. We can pretty easily figure out which one it is. They travel back in time, so no. Time is progressing, so it's not recursive. And we see an outcome change in real time, so it can't be fate either. Yes, this is splinter travel. Except that it's also kinda not. Hi, it's late and I'm on earbud mic right now, but this section was pissing me off, so I'm cleaning it up a bit. To put a Disney Channel time rule set as simply as possible, it's like a plug-and-play situation. When they travel back, you can see their memories and certain items that they bring with them remain unfazed, but everything in the line of fire, so to speak, isn't just changed immediately. There's like a wave that comes through to fix it, as seen with this newspaper. The gang have essentially broken off one section of history and loaded up a new one. But the old one is still out floating dormant. Okay, that should make a little more sense. I'm going to talk about a couple more quirks that this has, and we can be on our way. I will steal one example from that video because it shows a similar example of what happens in this movie, and that movie is Primer. In that film, you can only travel back to a point in time using a time machine where that time machine existed. And it's a similar idea in this movie, where you can only travel as far back as to the point where a temporal anomaly was originally made. This may seem incorrect because they boot up the machine for the first time and immediately throw a cat back in time, but I'll explain it a little later. And then you've got to think about the fact that every time they jump back, their old selves just magically disappears. So does that mean when you travel back in time, no matter where you are still you? Like you fill the world slot for you? Except for the one time where it doesn't, but we'll get there. If you put it all together, what do you get? Life is Strange stole their entire logic system from Minutemen to a T. I will not explain any further. We're getting back into the movie. They're doing all this time hopping, and because of that, a couple of problems arise. Number one, which is kind of expected and a little extreme, the nerds start to become the cocky bullies. Number two, which is very unexpected and super extreme, Charlie stole data from NASA. His guilt and fears of being caught increase every time they use the time machine. But never mind all that, Stephanie has a chance to get a cheerleading scholarship. All she's gotta do is not break her leg in the next 24 hours, and she'll be just fuck. So, they've gotta run one last mission to save Stephanie's future. And in the process, reveal their identities to Stephanie. This pretty quickly trickles down to Derek, who guilt trips Virgil into going back and helping him win the big game. Why can't things be like they used to be? When I got to stand on the sidelines when the bullies that I'm basically in charge of get to harass nerds like you. Why can't we still be friends? I wish I owned a snapback for that bit. I think I would have gotten more into character. Hanging out with Derek gets to his head as he starts partying and disregarding Charlie. This includes agreeing to help him fix Steph seeing Derek cheat on her. Now's the point where we move into the third act and finally find an actual conflict. Before it was all, good kids are going bad, and now the FBI shows up and kidnaps all three of them. They accuse them of stealing classified documents, but Virgil pulls out Old Reliable. Are we being arrested? Are we free to go? He's got the 1-2 combo locked in. Guy watched like one badass school's cop with the law video and weaseled his way out of an FBI arrest. After the gang breaks up just outside of this agent's top secret headquarters, which, there's too many windows for a private investigation like this, Charlie finds out that they made a black hole and it will eat the entire world in a few hours. So he gets help from the FBI, and they roll out to stop the world from ending. And just in time for the homecoming dance. It's a DCOM, of course there's gonna be a dance. When Stephanie and Virgil win Homecoming King and Queen, he begins to have second thoughts about the plan to get her and Derek back together. Weird that he only has second thoughts about that when he thinks he has a chance with her. I knew he was a weirdo. I mean, who goes to school with the intent of learning to become a game show host? The school watches him and Derek argue, only for the FBI to break everything up. From here, we approach the endgame. Everyone finds out that they only have a little time to stop the black hole from destroying the world, so the Minutemen have to jump into it and close it from the other side. But Virgil realizes that the day they jumped back to is the day that he met Charlie and was destined to stay a loser forever. The day zero of time travel is actually the day that the rocket car malfunctioned because it essentially fucked with quantum space. It's a neat little thing that they set up way earlier in the movie, so I'll give him props for that. He goes back to school to try to stop himself from embarrassing himself. This ending, the last 3 minutes of this entire movie, completely destroys any rule that this movie had when it comes to time travel. So far, it has been mildly consistent, which for a DCOM is pretty impressive. But in these short moments, they see themselves from the past, which is something that doesn't happen beforehand, even when it should. And when they escape back through the black hole, it doesn't spit them out at the same spot like every other time. It sends them back to a random spot during the day where they first time traveled. Hey, don't worry though, they did use the grappling hook in the most useless way possible. Virgil kicks Derek to the curb because he's a dick and makes his move on Stephanie, and Charlie gets his next big idea. Teleportation. Hey Disney, where's that sequel? I know it's been years, but you could still do it now. Get these 3 grown men back to do a movie where these guys create a teleportation device and have to incorporate it into their boring office jobs just to relive that same excitement from high school. I mean, think of all the amazing things they could do. Steal a really nice pen from a coworker? Get coffee extra quickly? I mean, the possibilities are endless when you can move from place to place in a single moment. Minutemen.
What do you mean, shut up? I've struck gold.